Students will discuss today about data and techniques of data collections. You see, there is a misconception about data in general. You see, layman understanding of data is that it refers merely to numerical data such as per capita income or percentage or GDP or GNP. But in communication research or research in general, data refers to every kind of information which are important for your research under investigation. Therefore, I'll request my students to keep this fundamental difference in their mind. The second aspect that we'll take up today is about techniques of data collections. You see, social scientists in course of times have developed a number of important techniques for data collections. These techniques are useful in different circumstances. You see, some technique is important or useful, more useful in one circumstances. The other techniques is more effective in some other circumstances. And that was the reason why a number of techniques have been developed, and these techniques have been developed separately in order to meet the requirement. Today, we'll take up the case of only two techniques, that is questionnaire and schedule. Questionnaire and schedule are very important techniques of data collections in communication research, and therefore I'll request my students to carefully understand the meaning and differences and their use in communication research. In the outline we see that there are some important issues have been mentioned. Its data has been defined, then what are the techniques of data collection and its various types. Then there is a focus on questionnaire and schedule, its conceptual understanding, comparative advantages and disadvantages. And then the last section is how to make a good questionnaire. Now, so far as data is concerned, there has been some confusion among people at large. The layman's misconception is that the common people understand by this only numerical data. Whenever somebody talks of data, the common man understands that that person is talking about numerical data, something like percentage or per capita income or you see something in numbers. This is the general misconception among the common people, the layman. See, computer's definition of data is every kind of information. But different from these two, there is a concept of data in communication research that refers to all kind of information that is required for your research. So each and every information that you look for or you generate from the field, that is data from the viewpoint of communication research in particular and research in general. This the student must keep in mind. Then the second aspect related to this is the difference between primary data and secondary data. What is primary data and what is secondary data? You see, primary data are those data which you yourself generate from the field. When you go for doing research for your this study under investigation, if you are making a study of, you see, say for example, the kind of social tension generated by the reverse migration from the cities, then you go to the villages, talk to the people, and the information you gather from there, these are the fresh data, the primary data. I mean, you should be very clear about this. The data you generate from field is the fresh data because this has not been done earlier. You are the first person who are doing this data. This is new and this is fresh. Therefore, it has been given the name primary data. And the secondary data are those data which are already available. Already available in the sense that the number of books are published, a number of articles have been published earlier on some topic. Say, for example, if you are doing a study on farmer suicide, number of books you will find in this country and outside on the farmer suicide in this country, particularly Maharashtra. Similarly, a number of articles you might come across. So the information given in those articles and books are the secondary data, but the data generated by you is primary data. I have specifically mentioned this primary data and secondary data because students, these questions are asked in the examination. So please keep this in mind. The different conception of data and the difference between primary data and secondary data. Now coming over to various techniques, I'll not take much of time on going into the details of each and every techniques because separately we'll be taking up these techniques. And I have just mentioned about other techniques. These are interview, observation, case study, survey method, content analysis, and cross-sectional study. Let us move on to the next section, that is a definition of questionnaire and schedule. And unlike the PPT standard, I have given definition of questionnaire and schedule in a very oversimplified words, language, and this has been done purposefully. There is a purpose behind it because, you see, you listen to the talk and then you forget about it. So for the purpose of examination, the student must note it down that questionnaire is a set of generally structured questions posted or mailed to the respondents who will fill and send it back. There is a sentence about questionnaire that it is a set of generally structured questions. You prepare a set of questions on particular topic, the topic you are interested in or the topic you are doing research on. You, for the purpose of data generation, you prepare a set of questions. Those questions you will be asking to the respondent. Respondent means to whom you are going to raise these questions. Therefore, it is always given in a structured form. Structured forms means closed-ended questions. Like if the question is, what is your marital status? There would be an option that you are married, unmarried, or separated, or something else. But you don't have to give a option to the respondents where he or she explain things in detail. Only he or she is supposed to answer in a very given structured form. This is what questionnaire is. And the distinct feature of questionnaire is that the researcher prepare the questions. The researcher will prepare the questionnaire, but it will be posted earlier when there was no mail, there was no net. It used to be sent to the respondent through post. So it was posted earlier. Now it is being mailed because now this kind of facility is available everywhere. So it is mailed to the respondent. It is posted to the respondent, and the respondents are supposed to read it, fill it back, fill the answers, and send it back to the researcher. So what is done or what was done earlier, that along with the set of questions, that is questionnaire, the researcher would write a request letter requesting the respondent to answer those questions which has certain purpose and a kind of a assurance to the respondent that the information given in the questionnaire or in the form of their answer will not be disclosed to anybody else. Therefore, you see, creating a kind of an atmosphere where the respondent easily answer their question and more. And apart from that, along with the questionnaire, earlier practice was the researcher would attach a self-addressed envelope along with the questionnaire so that the respondent finds it easier to do the job and mail it back to the researcher. This is what questionnaire is. But on the other hand, schedule is what? There is no difference. So far as question is concerned, the same set of question is there in the form of schedule. That is also called interview schedule. But it is not posted, it is neither posted nor mailed. It is carried by the researcher himself or herself. You carry yourself the questions, and you go there, ask the questions from the same set of questions, the same question which is there in the question in the form of questionnaire. Same set of question is there. You are asking simply, the respondent listen to it, then he or she answer the questions, and you note it down. You note down the answer. So this is the difference. In one case, the questions or questionnaire is sent, posted or mailed, and in the case of schedule, it is carried by the researcher himself or herself. So this is the fundamental difference between questionnaire and schedule. And my dear students, please keep this in mind, because this is very fundamental. There is a separate section on comparison between these two, the questionnaire and schedule. And in course of comparison between these two techniques of data collection, that is questionnaire and schedule, you will come across the advantages of questionnaire over schedule in particular circumstances from one point of view. And then when we move on the next section, you'll see the advantages of schedule over questionnaire. So for the timing, we'll have a look on the advantage of questionnaire, but at the same time, we'll also realize the difference between questionnaire and schedule. What are the differences, and then what are the advantages of questionnaire? As I said earlier, questionnaire is posted, mail, therefore it is an easy affair. Schedule, it is carried by the researcher, therefore it is troublesome, it is painful, it is carried, you have to arrange researcher, you have to arrange for his tickets, everything. Similarly, questionnaire is an economic affair. It's economical. It is not expensive. Economical in the sense that you are simply supposed to prepare a questionnaire and mail it. You don't require anything else. So it's very simple, and you don't require huge amount of money to spend on this. But if it is the case of schedule, you need to arrange a researcher or his subordinate who will go to the field, arrange, fill up all the answers, and then come back. Therefore, that requires lots of money. So one is economical, the other is expensive. Since it is very easy and economic, and you are doing what on mail or through post, therefore the questionnaire can cover wider population and wider area. That is but natural. On the other hand, schedule has got some handicap on this score, because it cannot cover that larger area or population, precisely because of the fact the researcher himself or herself is supposed to go there, read out the questions, and note down the answers. Therefore, it is time taking, and it will take time, money, it will require money and other things. Therefore, I have mentioned again or next that questionnaire saves time and saves energy. That is not the case with schedule. It requires more time and it is more engaging. Then coming over to the advantages of schedule. What is the advantage of questionnaire? Since the researcher is not present in the field, therefore there is a natural inbuilt trouble with the questionnaire. It lacks face-to-face relation. There is no face-to-face relation between the researcher and the respondent. In the case of schedule, there is a face-to-face relationship. The researcher is there present in the field to ask the questions and note down the answer. Therefore, out of this, there is another advantage of schedule, that questionnaire is a limited scope, as respondent's answer is the only information. Because you simply, whatever you get from the answers given by the respondent on the mail or in the letters earlier, that is the only source of information with you. But in the case of schedule, since researcher himself is there, he can jolly well get some information, some additional information from the respondents. Even if the respondents are not answering, speaking about this, the researcher can jolly well guess it. Again, there is no one to provide clarification if there is some communication gap in the case of questionnaire. in the case of questionnaire, the researcher is not present. Therefore, if there is some kind of a communication gap, if some point is not very clear to the respondent, he is not properly understanding the meaning of the question, what the question actually is about, then there is no one to make clarification. But in the case of schedule, the researcher is there. And last but not the least, in fact, the most fundamental difference between questionnaire and schedule is questionnaire is effective or meant for literate people. If you are not literate, you cannot answer questionnaire. You are useless because you cannot read it and you cannot write. Therefore, questionnaire is meant and it is effective only those cases where the respondents are literate, or he or she can write or read and write, understand the question. But schedule has a definite advantage over questionnaire in the sense that it is effective for both literate and illiterate. Therefore, it has from this perspective, the schedule has a definite advantage over questionnaire. Now, how do you construct a good questionnaire? This is very important, and the student will have to understand this. You see, by simply saying that questionnaire is a set of questions, that will not lead you to very far. So the main thing is that you need to understand all those limitations and all those dimensions that ensure a good questionnaire construction. Therefore, we have mentioned some key consideration while constructing a questionnaire. You should keep these things in mind, and unless and until you follow these rules, you cannot hope of producing a good questionnaire. The first and the foremost important thing is that making good questionnaire 100% depends on good hypothesis, and in turn it also depends on good review of literature. Meaning thereby, if you want to do a good questionnaire, if you want to prepare a good questionnaire, you need to have a good hypothesis. And a good hypothesis depends, as I have said earlier in my last couple of talks, that hypothesis is generated by proper review of literature. Unless you have a proper understanding of the issues at hand, unless until you have done a proper review of literature, you have read the books and articles related, on this topic, you cannot generate good hypothesis. And in the absence of good hypothesis, you cannot hope of generating good questionnaire. You cannot raise good questions. This is very important, and you must keep this in mind. The second is, whenever you are preparing a questionnaire, please keep in this mind that all the questions are logically related to the central problem. It must be focused on the specific area under investigation. Similarly, so far as questionnaire is concerned, you need to have only structured question, close-ended question. I have already explained in greater detail. Now, the time factor is also very important. A number of scholars, you see, scholars like Goody and Hatt and others, P.B. Young, they have all said that the researcher must keep this point in his or her mind, because time factor is important. If you prepare a long and exhaustive questionnaire, list of questions, nobody will answer your questions. He'll simply will be fed up with this. Therefore, always try to make a short questionnaire, an effective questionnaire, and you should not try to cross the limit of half an hour, that is 30 minutes. That is again important, is that once you prepare a questionnaire, please reread it, and after you are satisfied, you should give it to somebody else for experts' comments or opinion, because that is also, you cannot underline your own mistake. You might have missed some important point on this issue. Therefore, the opinion of the experts, opinion of somebody else is very important. Each and every question should be put in such a way that it should make a unity. There should be a continuity from one to the last questions. There is a controversy. In fact, there are different opinions so far as democratic questions are concerned. I I advise my students to begin with demographic questions because this is very simple. But I have read on a couple of occasions that there are people who suggest to put demographic questions at the last. So that is up to you, and that depends on the nature of research also. Apart from that, there are people who sometimes argue that you should avoid the column against the name. The respondent, if he's sure that his name is not written there, if his name or her name is not disclosed, he will give you proper answer. So that is also one point of view. So these are the things. But what is not controversial is the next point, that is the introductory questions should be interesting. It should be very interesting because the first questions create impression. If it is interesting, the respondent will move to the second question and the third question till the last questions. If the first question is boring, you cannot hope of getting much information from the respondent. Then complex and lengthy questions should be avoided. Similarly, negative questions should also be avoided. If you ask the migrant workers that, you see, once you have come to the villages, you are going to a burden on the village economy. Do you think that these people who have come back from cities, they will answer your question? They will never answer your question. Therefore, please avoid negative questions. Similarly, you should avoid abbreviation, ambiguous questions. Your questionnaire should be very well typed with proper space and instruction for answer. And your questionnaire must end some words of appreciation or thank giving, because that is very important. Make few points so far as concluding remarks are concerned. You see, the difference between questionnaire and schedule is a difference of situation. Same question, same set of questions. If it is mail, if it is posted to the respondent, the name is given questionnaire. The moment the researcher carries it with him or her to the respondent, it becomes schedule. Techniques are extremely valuable for data collection, and since selection of the third and the last issue I would like to emphasize is that since selection of question is sensitive issue, it should be handled with utmost care, and you should keep these things in mind. Thank you.